Hello, I'm Kim Neubauer, RPCV and Senior Career Consultant. And this micro lesson is about a portfolio of job search tools, approaches, and strategies to help you navigate the current employment landscape. So I'm going to start with a question. Assuming employers might get dozens or hundreds or even thousands of resumes per each opening, how do you get yours noticed? Well, it's a trick question because it has nothing to do with resumes, networking, getting the word out about what you're looking for and what you have to offer. That's the best way, becoming known. So 70% of people get their next jobs through networking. So that is a backdrop. Today, we're going to be covering other insights and information that will help you stand out and get through the early stages of the job search process, which tend to be deselection versus selection. This is what we're going to cover. We're going to cover on the left job boards, LinkedIn, resume, cover letter, and on the right are other tools that you might need for your portfolio. For example, if you are applying for international development work, or possibly an education or science role, you may need a CV versus a resume. If you want to speak somewhere, and sometimes for consulting, you might need a bio, etc. So a little bit about my background. For 9 years, I worked for the Peace Corps as a volunteer, a contractor, an employee, and a consultant. And that launched my career as a training professional, designing and facilitating learning experiences. I have veered off in the last 15 years with a specialty in career consulting. So we're going to cover now, where do you even find job openings? And I have some, there's many, many places, big boards like Indeed.com. Indeed is an aggregator, which means it aggregates or collects from many different sources, one-stop shop job postings. So a lot of people go there as a first place to look. There's also niche job boards like Idealist.com, which is for impact, social impact positions. It includes volunteer, internships, and jobs. Glassdoor.com includes reviews and also information about interviewing, salaries, and more. FlexJobs is for flexible work from home remote positions. USAjobs.gov is for government jobs. And Devex.com is for global development roles. And then there's the company websites. Many organizations, like when you go to their websites, and the statistics tell us that they interview at a much higher rate than from the big boards. Oftentimes what happens is an employer will put the word out to their colleagues, to others, or they will post internally. And if they don't get enough strong candidates, then they may check the job boards. So for some, they will view candidates from Indeed.com, Monster.com, CareerBuilder.com as the bottom of the barrel. So that should not, the big board should not be a first place to go, although you could find postings there and then network your way in, and then you will be just fine. So let's look at social media. Companies, organizations have a presence on many social media platforms. For example, on Facebook, a lot of organizations will have a Facebook page and may even have a career page with job postings. They want to go where the population that they're looking to source for employment hang out. So they are on many platforms. But today we're going to zero in on LinkedIn, which is the most popular and largest social network for business and other professionals. So what you get with LinkedIn, as compared to the other social media sites, is a somewhat older population, more educated, higher income, and lots of people, lots of users who are senior level influencers, otherwise known as hiring managers. So that's where you want to have a presence, is in LinkedIn. 87% of recruiters use it regularly, and I'm going to make an educated guess that almost 100% use it at least some, mostly to source candidates and always to check you out. They will check out your social media presence everywhere they can find. In terms of LinkedIn, one of the things they'll look at is how consistent is your information there with your resume and any other information they have about you. When I say consistent, I don't mean the same. If it's exactly the same, it does not come across well, but you can cut and paste, for example, information per your job experience. They also want to make sure that you're someone who fits their company. Professional is the easiest way to summarize that. So with LinkedIn, you can either be passive or active and still get the benefits. Passive would be you create a very strong profile and hope that recruiters will find you. Active means you join LinkedIn groups, you contribute, you present yourself as a thought leader by asking good questions or responding to other people's questions. You can post yourself and you can comment on other people's postings. LinkedIn works with keywords and works with algorithms. And if you just comment on someone's post, congratulations. Maybe they got a new job. That's not going to be picked up by the algorithm. You need to have more words, a whole sentence maybe, or a comment around 8 words plus, and then you will get picked up on their algorithm. So what do you need to do for your profile to get that noticed? Or when they either are sourcing candidates, or just checking you out, what's important? You want to have a professional looking profile photograph, headshot. Statistics tell us that recruiters on average spend about 19% of their LinkedIn profile time on your image. I have never seen any reason or rationale, so I will tell you mine. I think they want to engage with you. I think they want to find out what kind of a person or a professional or a worker are you. So make sure to look into the camera so it appears as if you are engaging with the viewers. The headline are the words. You're limited to 220 characters under your profile. Those are the most read words on a LinkedIn profile. Use them judiciously. By that, I mean incorporate keywords for what you're looking to do next. And some words for a returned Peace Corps volunteer. And I did a lot of research on RPCVs to see what I could find. It's generally not a good idea to put your title unless you're fixed in a job and you're not looking to go anywhere. But you do want to put your key competencies, your expertise that your audience will recognize and the LinkedIn algorithm will pick up as keywords. So for example, are you a literary specialist, community development, international development, economic growth, health educator? Make sure you're using the language that your audience will recognize. Keywords, how do you find out those keywords? And what I'm saying will also refer to your resume as well. You look at the job postings for jobs that you might be very interested in, and you analyze them, and you see what words they use for the qualifications and responsibilities. And if you've done it, because everything on LinkedIn and a resume must be true and accurate, 100%, no exaggerations, nothing misleading. But if you've done it, use their words, use their language. The About section on LinkedIn is your opportunity as an RPCV to tell your career story. Tell them how, either why you joined the Peace Corps, what you learned, who you became from your Peace Corps experience, how that enables you to add tremendous value in the setting for the types of employment that you're looking to do next. So take good advantage of that section to convince future employers of the logic of who you are, what you've become, what you've learned, what you did in the Peace Corps. Makes it so obvious a logic why you would be a good fit and a strong contributor for your future ambitions. Okay, so let's move to resume, which again must be consistent but not the same as your LinkedIn profile. This is an opportunity to market yourself. Marketing yourself is the primary purpose of a resume, although it's used for lots of other reasons. It may guide your job interview. It may be a reminder if the employer has interviewed many people that day or week, your resume will remind them. But primarily, it's to market yourself. Use that information to determine what goes on it and what does not. Resumes do not need to be thorough. They do not need to include everything you've ever done in your entire life, but it does need to have information relevant to your ambitions. Keep your audience in mind. Your audience is almost always potential future hiring managers or employers, recruiters. Let me give you an example. A future potential employer does not need to know that you speak Truckese. They don't need to know that you slept on a mat in an uncomfortable, very hot home, or that you stayed with a host family. Those are really interesting facts that you may want to tell your friends, and you may captivate them with your stories, but they don't belong on a resume. What might belong on a resume is that you trained 35 youth peer educators who now provide HIV/AIDS education in their communities. If you were applying, for example, to a hospital or for a science teaching job, they may not need to know even that the people you trained are providing education in HIV/AIDS. You may want to generalize that to public health or nutrition or whatever in general the education was that you train people in. So again, you want to include relevant information, transferable skills. That means you did something. Skill just means something you can do, and maybe you can do well. So you did something in the Peace Corps in a certain setting, but that setting is not relevant. Maybe, depends what you want to do next. It may be very relevant, but let's say it's not. You can still use that skill in other settings. That's what we mean by transfer that skill. So the language you use on your resume is very important, so to make it easy for the recruiter to understand what your capabilities are and how they may contribute in their setting. Again, as similar to LinkedIn, analyze postings for keywords. You may need to modify your resume at least slightly each time you apply to a different posting. The information you provide, you want to frame it in terms of accomplishments, not just responsibilities, not just your job description, what you did, which maybe lots of people could do, and it puts people to sleep. But take that information and attach a result to it, and all of a sudden you have strengthened and made your resume more powerful. It could be your contribution, your impact, the outcome of something you did, or the result of it, any way you want to look at it. And sometimes you can't quantify something, but maybe you can quantify the scope, how many people you trained, how many, I was going to say villages, how many communities you impacted. Formatting does matter. You want to make it easy for the recruiter, who on average will spend 6-7 seconds glancing at or skimming for the information they need. Make it easy. Resumes should be 1 to 2 pages. One, if you can fit it all in there, but maybe you had a career before the Peace Corps. So you may need that second page, but put the most important information up front, because sometimes order matters, sometimes within sections or overall on your resume. Generally size 11 font, although it depends on which font you're using, but that's a good default size. If you want information about applicant tracking systems, friendly font, I would suggest the website jobscan.com. I'll talk more about ATS systems in a moment. White space. You don't want writing all over the page. It's hard to read that way. but you do want a space in between categories or different job roles, and you want decent margins. I'm going to suggest between ½ inch and an inch. Inch is too big, ½ inch is too small. Pick anything in between. Your wording for your accomplishments, for the content, use active verbs and the past tense, because by definition, what you did, what you accomplished is in the past. So active verbs, not I was responsible for, or I worked with, or I assisted or helped. Those don't carry much meaning or power. But what comes next? Responsible for teaching. Start that thought with taught. Active verbs. Use standard category names like education, professional experience, and there's a pretty much expected order. And sometimes there's a little bit of flexibility in terms of priority. If you're if something is a higher priority, let's say your education, maybe you're a full-time student, you went back to school. If that's a stronger selling point for what you want to do next, you may want to put education first. Otherwise, it's generally after your experience. And generally, recruiters expect the dates on the right. They want to be able to see, glance, remember, glance, skim. They want to be able to see the chronology, starting most recent, going backwards of your experience. And it's easiest if you put all your dates on the right. Here are some examples of accomplishments. Notice, for example, in the first one, what they did was create a technology resource center, but the result is it's being used by over 20 students daily. That's the result or the impact. And I'll give you just a few seconds to look at the others and take note of the result. Okay, here's another example. This couple created with Colombian counterparts an educational television network designed to improve primary school education. Let's talk about the ATS system. Since almost all large corporations, Fortune 500 companies, use them, as do many smaller organizations and some universities. This is the computer system that's going to screen your resume. Notice I use this word screen versus select, because the early stages of the job search process, why I refer to it as oops in the beginning, is generally to screen out, to lower the pile, reduce the number so it's manageable for the time when it goes to the hiring managers. So it is extremely important to pay attention to whether your resume is ATS system friendly. What that means is you want to be chock full of keywords. Keywords are usually the hard skills, whereas employers are more and more extremely interested in soft skills like communication, leadership, team building. Everybody puts that on their resume, so it does not mean anything to recruiters. So look for the hard skills, plan to demonstrate just by who you are, or maybe to articulate some of those soft skills in your LinkedIn About section, in your interview, maybe in your networking to demonstrate those skills. You as an RPCV are uniquely able to do all sorts of things that almost everybody else that you'll be competing with won't be like you. And it can range anything from your adaptability to resilience is really hot these days. Some of your communication skills, especially with the language challenges, you have a lot to offer that others don't. But you must qualify for what you're applying for first, and then convince them that why you would be a top candidate among those who qualify. ATS systems work by keywords, algorithms, and some are powered by artificial intelligence. The AI-powered ones are much more complex, they're more expensive for the employer, and they can do all sorts of fun things like calculate, rank, score. If you have something on the second page, it may be scored lower than if you have it on the first page of your resume. Order does matter sometimes. Or If you put a skill in a list, it may be ranked lower than if you have told them within your job experience how you have used that particular skill or tool or method or whatever. ATS systems reject 75% of the resumes that are screened by them. Much of that is because of formatting. Some of it may just be you're not a good match, or that you forgot to put in the correct keywords, even though you might be a good match. The system didn't recognize that. But of those rejected for formatting purposes, no fancy formatting. What I mean by that is headers and footers may get separated from the rest of your resume. They may love you and not know how to contact you. Don't use text boxes, columns, any fancy formatting, any fancy fonts. Be pretty basic. If you want to emphasize something, bold it, use a bullet point, capitalize it. Those will easily go through an ATS system. Now I want to talk about cover letters. The most hated aspect of job search, I think agreed to by almost every job seeker. Also, the word on the street is that employers don't read them. You don't need them. So I'm not going to tell you the word on the street. I'm going to tell you the facts. Cover letter statistics. This is what I found. 87% of respondents read them. I frankly think that's too high. I don't think that's true. But what is true is that if they do read them, and this is your dream job, it may be the make or break for you. And also, I think what's important in one of the statistics here is that many postings will say cover letters are optional, or they won't ask for them, or you won't know if they're going to ask for them until you're finished uploading everything or finished filling out the online application. But more than 7 in 10 recruiters expect to receive them, even if they are not required. So let's get even more specific. Should you tailor a cover letter each time? Oh, that takes time. That takes a little bit of energy and effort. Well, there's lots of people who create a template and then they apply to a new job. They take out the name of the company and they plug in the new one and the name of the position they're applying for. But beware, a significant percentage forget one or the other. And I get to hear those stories from recruiters who laugh or create files for funny, humorous job applications. So beware if you do a generic cover letter. But let's see if it matters. Tailored, customized cover letters were 53% more likely to have gotten an interview than none at all. A company called Resume Go submitted over 7,000 fake applications, and this is what they found out. So what about tailoring? Even if it's generic, it's still, they get 17% more likely to get interviewed. So a few reminders as we finish up. Focus on your audience with everything you do that has to do with the job search, every touch point. If that means networking, a resume, interview, online application, focus on what you have to offer related to what the employer's needs are. That match the employer's pain points, their hiring needs, to the best of your ability to learn them from the company website, from the job posting, and ideally through people you've talked to who work there or who have experience with that organization. Remember some of the insights that we're presenting here in the micro lesson so that you can up your chances of being successful in the job search process. And identify, what do you as a return Peace Corps volunteer have to offer that's unique, that's potentially of value to the employment marketplace, and learn to articulate it in the language of your target audience. If you choose to work in international development, you may not need to change your language one iota. But if you're working in any other setting, you probably need to learn a few new ways to articulate what you have to offer and what you're interested in. So thank you for your patience. I hope it's been really valuable to you, and good luck with your job search.